Okay. Let's do all the boring sharing.
Let's build the ghost. Easy project, right?
I turned it off.
Okay.
Oh, okay. George, say hello to our guest.
Hello.
You made it. Hello. You should be in. You should be hearing me. Should be in and should be hearing me.
Can you hear us?
Justin? You're not muted.
I can't hear you guys. All right. So
I can hear you a little bit.
Sorry for everybody I can't hear. Not even sure if you can hear me.
I can hear you barely.
I can't see anything or
Yeah,
hear
we can
anything.
hear you.
I'm going to log out and log back in and see if
Okay.
that helps.
Okay.
That's not good.
Okay, coming in.
See him
Oh, yep.
at the stage. Let's see if we get it this time.
Can you hear us? Test,
I
test,
can
1, 2,
hear
3.
you,
Testing,
but
testing,
not
1, 2,
hear you
3.
through my headphones. So
Oh, well,
Oh,
that's
not good.
better
That's
than
not
nothing.
good. Let me just plug my headphones
You're not
into the.
echoing for whatever that matters.
That's better. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
I absolutely can.
yep.
Should I turn the mic up at all, or is this a good volume?
No, it's pretty good, actually.
It's good.
Okay.
Kind of sounds like you're in a hallway, but
A little echo in the room.
but I can
probably.
hear you.
Our-
It's okay.
It's
But-
our office. Our office is just a big.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Our campaign office is just a big blank room with hardwood floors, and
Okay. Okay.
it's
okay.
echoey in here. Sorry about that.
No,
No
no.
worries.
No, it's okay.
We've had a lot worse.
So I want to share
Yeah,
this.
yeah,
I want
we
to
have a lot
share
more.
this on all my stuff. So let me get the link. Get it out there.
We're actually just a tiny bit late because I'm still sharing.
Sounds good. Well, I'm going to do the same thing, and
You'll know when
just,
we're starting.
Okay. What's the number to call in for questions? Again? Or is that?
I will
do
give
we
that out
share
when
that
we're-
later.
I'll give that out.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Good.
Okay. That should be done. That should be done. Let's get okay. Let's kick this thing off, shall we?
Let's do it.
I will monitor the radio feed. GCPR live and.
Do you guess which one's not connecting, George? You'll never guess.
I could. I could see it on.
Yeah, you'll never guess.
You know, like on GCPR. Stand by. I'm gonna mute my microphone.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? But that's a doggone season that he won't try something new. A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who brings the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Kennedy.
Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you'll cast your vote for Kennedy and the change that's overdue. So to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere of this planet we call Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system, part of the Milky Way galaxy. This is the Kennedy Effect live with you for the 29th of March, 2026. Already at the end of March. This year is absolutely flying by, but then again, it's getting warmer, and that's okay with me. This old body hates the cold, and I am sick of the cold, and I'm done, and I'm just done with it. So I'm very glad that it's getting warmer, but we're already at the end of March. I am forever perplexed and taken aback at how quickly time flies by. You are listening and watching to the Kennedy Effect live with you for the 29th of March, 2026. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Hot101.net, Ghost Claw Entertainment, Ghost Claw Productions, and Our Revolution Pennsylvania. We are also live on the Home Group Facebook page for all things that surround this program, the Kennedy Effect on Facebook. We have shared the program to over 100 other destinations across the Facebook universe, and if you are the owner, administrator, chieftain of any of those, we appreciate you very, very much. We could not do it without you. For every group and individual that allows us to be part of your corner of the Facebook universe, thank you so very, very much. We couldn't do it without you. But again, our home, so you can stay right where you are and watch, comment. We will get your comments. I'll try, of course, we'll pay attention to your comments throughout the entire program. We'll be taking your phone calls later in the program. Wait for me to give the number, and then we'll be ready for that. Remember that the phone doesn't work exactly as it should, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Our guest will be able to hear you. You may or may not be able to hear him on the other end. I'm the only one that you're going to be able to hear because, again, we can't get the phones to work the right way with this new programming, unfortunately, but we'll get it. We'll get it. We're going to figure it out one of these weeks. It's just a matter of George and I sitting down and slogging through the probably, I don't know, hours or more so of work that we're going to have to do to figure it out. But apparently there's no way to, we need a new phone system. Let's put it that way. We're going to have to get a new phone system because I happen to remember you telling me that there's no way to incorporate Google Voice into the StreamYard. So that said, we'll have to do it the old-fashioned way for now. Hold the old girl up to the microphone, but it also means that you're not going to be able to hear everything on the other end. So that's how that goes. We are live right now on not just one, but two YouTube channels because not one is enough to hold this ego. We need two of them. We are live right now on the YouTube channel of Ghost Claw Productions Radio, GCPR, and live on my YouTube channel, The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. We could not be easier to find. It's either Hot101.net, GCPR, or The Kennedy Effect on Facebook, The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. We couldn't be any easier to find. The audio of the program, of course, blasts around the globe via two global internet radio stations. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. Hot101.net, HOT101.net, hot101.net. Our name is our web address, but you don't need the main website to listen, even though you can listen there completely 100% for free. We are live right now on our apps as well, Apple App Store, Google Play Store for Android devices, and the TuneIn Radio app. Go up to the search bar, type in hot101.net, and you'll be listening right away, 100% for free. No logins, no credit card needed, no fancy triple, double verifications. You just tap, open it up, and you're listening. That's how easy it is. You can, of course, tell Alexa to play hot101.net as well. GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio, you can listen to us through our main website, gcpr.live, 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 as well as our fully functioning Android device with a Apple. I'm going to continue to hope that the Apple app is on its way. George is smiling because he knows how much Gilbert hates Apple devices, so he's not in a rush to be doing that. I want to say good evening to everybody who's already in the chat. Mike, Donna, who am I missing? Am I missing anybody? Mike, Donna, Annabelle. Who else am I missing? It would be nice if my toggling was working. Already a question in the chat. That's great. We encourage your questions and comments in the chat. We will work them into the program as the discussion allows. But you can see, holy crap, we have a guest. Wow, we haven't had a guest in quite a while. Because quite frankly, I got sick of begging people to be on the program. So George and I just decided we'll do the program ourselves. To heck with it. But every now and then someone is brave enough to come on the program. Oh, Bettina's in the chat. Welcome, Bettina. Hello to you. Carrie's in the chat as well. Hello to you. A good evening to American Public Servant on YouTube, in the YouTube chat. Every now and then someone is brave enough to come on the program and face the questioning, and so is our guest tonight. Justin Douglas is a Democratic candidate for the United States House of Representatives in the 10th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. We'll be asking him all about why he's running, policy, initiatives, who he's running against, all that fun stuff that a candidate gets to talk about. And he is live from his campaign office in Harrisburg. Is your campaign office?
Yep, downtown Harrisburg. Downtown Harrisburg's campaign office.
So welcome to the program. I will start with you with the opening question that we ask every new guest to the program. Answer it in any way that you wish. It is meant to be intentionally vague because I want you to define who you are. I don't define who you are. And that is, who is Justin Douglas? And how did you get here?
Oh, wow. That's deep right out the gate. Look, I think most people define themselves in a sense by their professions. And I mean, that's a big part of who I am. I'm a husband first. My wife and I have been together since high school. So we met in Indiana and have 3 kids. So I'm a father. I have a 16-year-old, 14-year-old, and 11-year-old. And I was a pastor for 20 years before I became a county commissioner, before I ran for office and won. And I've been a county commissioner for a couple of years. Look, I think my life would best be summed up as somebody who has a track record of serving others, especially those who are disadvantaged or, in some sense that I've had the opportunity to protect or stand by or stand up for. That's a lot of my experience throughout my career. I also think I'm just a goofy, fun person. I don't try to take life too seriously. There's a lot of serious things going on right now, but I play music. I've played in bands. I do CrossFit. I was a CrossFit coach prior to becoming a county commissioner, and still do that. And that's a little bit about me. If I were to answer that question, I would probably answer that question differently depending on the day. I'm someone who likes to drink Sheets coffee at 6 o'clock at night.
You're the
one. I'm
one
running for Congress right now, so that's it.
Whenever I go into a Sheets, I can't figure out how to fill up a coffee cup. It's not like Wawa where it's super easy to fill up. I guess that's an East and West kind of thing, Sheets and Wawa anyway. But
they're trying to put us at war with each other here because they just put 2 of them right next to each other, and it's the "Are you Sheets or Wawa?" question.
There you go.
Yeah.
Got to make your choice every day. I tell people on this program all the time, you vote every single day with your wallet.
Listen,
we don't just vote twice a year in Pennsylvania. We vote every single day with our wallets.
This campaign for Congress is a diverse coalition. We'll take Wawa goers. We'll take Sheets goers. You could be a Turkey Hill goer. No judgment.
Nobody's a Turkey Hill goer. I want to ask you about, we have one of the hosts on GCPR is Pastor Matthew Best, who actually had a very long career in politics before turning to the pulpit. You turned from the pulpit into politics. What was the decision making there to go from preaching to politicking?
Yeah, it wasn't like I had an intentional desire to go into politics. I so it's probably important to know a little bit about my history. I grew up in a very conservative household, conservative evangelical. I have 2 degrees from Liberty University. Anybody who knows Liberty, very conservative school. I had a journey after leaving Liberty, and I was never really as conservative as Liberty, but certainly had a lot of things to unlearn and needed to make my faith my own. But it's really challenging to do that when you're also a pastor and there's all this expectation put on you being a faith leader and you're on your own exploration. But that took time over a couple years. Afterwards, I was in Boston and doing community organizing there. And that really transformed my faith in a lot of ways. I saw the world very different growing up most of my life in a farm in Indiana, very small kind of world. And the world really expanded a lot when I went to Liberty and when I lived in Northern Virginia. But then in Boston, it really changed a lot of my perspectives and set me on a course of, social justice type work and caring for the poor and caring for people who are often overlooked. That experience made me acutely aware of how political systems impact everybody, and how much of the work that the church does is kind of a downstream of a lot of the bad systems that exist in our world. And apparently there's cars zooming behind me. I can hear them over my headphones. I guess there's a street racing.
Told them when to go.
Yeah. Street racing in Harrisburg tonight. So anyway, I actually was in 2019 a pastor and lost my license due to inclusion of the LGBT community. And that put me on a unique path because I lost my salary overnight. The church lost all of its properties. We had 2 campuses, lost all of its assets, including checking accounts and everything that went to the denomination. And we had to start from scratch. And I lived in a parsonage at the time, so my family had to move out. I had to, go from a salary with no rent because it was part of my benefits to no salary and having to pay rent. And so I went to working 3 jobs. I worked as a CrossFit coach. I worked as an Uber driver, and I worked at planting a new faith community that was inclusive. And through that journey, continued to get more and more politically involved, or at least connected, just because you have that happen to you as a pastor, and there's just a lot of connections you make of people that are supportive of that. In 2023, I was coaching CrossFit. I was in the gym office. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I got a call from an organization called Run for Something. And they asked me to consider running for county commissioner. And, after doing some research on that role, prison reform was something that I was pretty passionate about, having been a pastor and seen the impact of the county prison, and especially our county prison, which has had, a really poor history. I wanted to throw my hat in the ring and see if I could pull off an upset. The seats had never been to Democrats for over 100 years. And I ran and I won. And that's kind of what got me mobilized into this effort. It wasn't really, I kind of see my life as like doors opening. I rarely kind of try to force a door open. Even running for Congress wasn't really something that I was looking to do, because if I was looking to do it, I would have done it very differently. It kind of found me. And that's kind of how I've lived my life. So hopefully that kind of answers your question of how I made that transition. But there's certainly a lot of things I have an advantage at of being a pastor, communicating regularly, or organizing volunteers, and, community organizing in general is something that pastors have experience with.
One of my favorite topics on this program, and I have had many pastoral roundtables here on the program, is the mix, the merger of politics and religion, the way that our Christian faith has been twisted in many ways to fit a political narrative. What I generally refer to as the corporate Christians, or the ones who, the ones who think that Christ beat the Roman Empire with an AK-47 on his back. And the prosperity doctrine. We've talked a lot about the prosperity doctrine on this program. Is it even possible? I told you I was going to ask you tough questions, so here we go. I don't know how it's exactly possible to be a person of faith and be this so-called evangelical, this new Christian, this so-called new Christian church, this corporatism, this corporate Jesus versus the Jesus of the Word, of the Bible. How do you square those two things, especially having come from having a foot in each pond, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, look, Christian nationalism is the most dangerous thing happening in America right now. I believe that fully because I know it. I'm adjacent to it in ways that I've seen it take my friends. I've seen it just completely transform people and give them a permission structure of some kind of pseudo faith to be deceived that what they're doing is somehow good or righteous. And it's very, very dangerous because it's manipulating people, and those people that have been manipulated in that way become incredibly dangerous because it's often perpetuating violence. It's perpetuating dominance. It does not often look like the characteristics that Jesus shared. I think I would simply remind people that the fruits of the Spirit that are in the scriptures are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. We could use a lot more of that in our politics. I do not
do unto others.
Yeah, do unto others as you would have done unto you. These types of realities within Scripture are kind of the center of Scripture. The Scriptures are centered on love of neighbor. I mean, we could go on with the message of Jesus versus the message of evangelicals, but I do think it's important to just from the onset, and I've made this very clear as a Christian, as a former pastor, I'm not trying to run on being a Christian or being a former pastor. It's part of who I am, but I don't want anyone to feel left out of this, whether you have no faith, whether you have a different faith in Christianity. And I don't want you to feel in any way like I'm going to advantage anyone who has a Christian faith. As a county commissioner, my office has been open to all different faith communities, and I've even participated in celebrations with faith communities that are not my own. And I've even been with, atheist groups and agnostic groups. And I think we need leaders who are able to share their faith in a responsible way, but not in a way that's trying to coerce or dominate people. I think what you see James Tallarico doing is really interesting right now, coming from a faith tradition and being able to speak about that as he's running for Senate in Texas. And I think, there is a reality that putting people like me in Congress, I'm aware of Christian nationalism and their tactics. And I think I know how to speak to it and message in opposition to it in a, unifying way. And we can't keep looking away from this because it will continue to build up, and it is incredibly dangerous.
So you think it's possible, not only possible, but necessary to politic without proselytizing?
Yeah. Here's what I would say. Look, I think it's necessary for the diversity that exists within our communities to be reflected in Washington. And unfortunately, most people that claim to be Christian that are in Congress are not people that have my perspective or even are on my side of the aisle. But there are plenty of us over here. And I'm not on any crusade to reclaim the word evangelical. I wouldn't call myself an evangelical, but I would remind people as a student of church history that the word evangelical was actually a very positive thing when it first started in the church. It was what got churches outside of their walls and into their communities, serving their neighbors. I think we're all probably excited or thankful for the evangelical movement and the way that it fed the poor and the way that it showed up for its neighbors and all the different programs that churches have launched that have made really good contributions in our neighborhoods. Unfortunately, like any term throughout time, it got co-opted to mean something else. Right? Specifically, interestingly enough, Going to Liberty, Jerry Falwell and the Moral Majority, co-opted that term and made it what they made it. And now we're here, 50 years later, since it being co-opted and seeing it completely tied to a particular party. That was not how that term originated. I'm in no world where I want to reclaim that term, but I would just simply say I follow Jesus. That's how I define myself. I think I find Jesus incredibly compelling, the way he lived, the way he loved, the way he served. And that's kind of the thing I aim for when I love people and I serve people, including love of enemies. I mean, that's a pretty radical call, And so that's my approach. I'm not trying to proselytize, but certainly going to be true to who I am.
We also can't let the other side take ownership of faith at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I don't think we want to give up that ground. Not that we want to hold, I think as a political person, I'm not trying to hold some ground for faith, but I do want to, express that the idea that some have that, all politicians in the Democratic Party are, atheists or don't believe in Jesus or whatever. Like, that's not true right now. And, it's certainly not true with who I am. And so I just try to, bear witness to that. But again, not trying to emphasize that in some undue way. It's a hard line to walk because so much of my experience comes from the church. But I think I do a pretty good job of inviting everybody in and ensuring that, my Muslim neighbors, my Jewish neighbors, my neighbors of non-faith all feel welcome.
Question from the comments section from what appears to be a young man. His name is CAJ, Kaj. I have no idea how you say that.
I think it's Cage.
Is it Cage? Is that how we say that? Was there any major event that turned you away from conservatism when you were at Liberty, or was it a gradual shift over time?
That's a good question. I would say it was a gradual shift over time until I moved to Boston. And when I moved to Boston, I lived in a town called Dorchester. And there in Dorchester, I experienced a community that was largely African-American and Dominican-American. Much of the views that were handed down to me by my community in Indiana, mostly white community, were really just, I had to wrestle with a lot of the innate bias that I had. And it made me rethink my whole world, my theology, my belief about other people. And it was a really liberating experience. And from there, we went to Wisconsin, and I lived there for prior to moving here to Pennsylvania 11 years ago. And while I was in Wisconsin, I continued that journey, continued to read and think differently, continued to try to learn from other people who had more diverse experiences than I. And I've traveled all over. I've been to Israel, Palestine. I've been to United Arab Emirates. I've been to Nicaragua. And each of those experiences has kind of contributed to making my world bigger and helping me gain different perspectives. So I'd say, look, I think we're all on a journey and we should be patient with ourselves. And there was a lot of people that were very patient with me when I was a pretty ignorant person. And I'm grateful for that. But no one thing, but Boston would probably be the one thing if I had to say something.
Bottom of the hour, you are watching and listening to the Kennedy Effect for the 29th of March, 2026. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Hot101.net, Our Revolution Pennsylvania, Ghost Claw Entertainment, and Ghost Claw Productions. We're live right now on the Home Group Facebook page. I encourage you all to visit and become members. I'm sure everyone here does. At least I'm hoping that you do. The Kennedy Effect on Facebook is our group. Please come visit and become a member. You can follow the program and the news stories that we follow all through the week. Even when we're not on the air, Facebook's always there. And we post articles, share content there that we think is important and that should be followed, and things here that we talk about on the program as well. We very much want you to be part of our Facebook group, The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. As with all social media, like, subscribe, share, all that fun stuff. We encourage you very much to do exactly that. We are live right now on 2 YouTube channels, The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. Another easy place to find us and to catch up with the program in case you ever miss any of it. It's a great place to watch and catch up with the program. Anything that you've ever missed, you can find us right there on YouTube. The library is all right there in sequence. GCPR.live as well, our GCPR Ghost Claw Productions Radio YouTube channel. We are live right there as well. The radio part of the program, the audio part of the program, blasts around the globe via 2 global internet radio stations. Hot101.net, our name is our web address, hot101.net. Apple App Store for Apple devices, Google Play Store for Android, and the Tune In radio app. Go up to the search bar, type in hot101.net. Tell Alexa to play hot101.net as well. GCPR.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live, GCPR.live. You can listen to us and find out everything you ever wanted to know about the station on our website, GCPR.live, as well as our Android app to listen. And of course, both at hot101.net and at GCPR, you get to listen 100% for free. The best price of all. 100% for free. GCPR, where every voice matters. I should ask you now, we'll turn away from this, from the heaviness, I guess, a little bit of it, and just get into more of, why are you running for this seat?
Yeah, well, that doesn't get away from the heaviness. I'm running for the seat because last year, around this time last year, ICE took my neighbors here in Pennsylvania and had 5 Bhutanese Nepali individuals who were refugees that were taken by ICE, detained, and then scheduled to be deported very quickly. It was a really traumatic experience for the families. And as a county commissioner, they reached out for help, and I tried to do everything I could to get them visits at Moshannon Valley ICE Detention Center. We couldn't make that happen, and so they prepped them for deportation in a county jail, Pike County Jail. Worked with their warden to get a visit out there, and caravanned out to Pike County with the families and visited on a weekend, sat in the lobby while families went back and said goodbye to their loved ones, very likely for the last time. It was a pretty painful experience for me to watch, but far more painful for the people that are experiencing it. We don't often think about the people that are left behind after ICE raids and takes people and deports them, but there are families, there are kids, there are loved ones that pick up the pieces after that and have to continue to move on. And it's incredibly painful to watch. And so when I saw that there was really no one running for Pennsylvania's 10th district that had a position on immigration that I felt was acceptable, I got in the race. It was something I discerned for 2 months. I launched an exploratory committee. I had a lot of people asking me to consider running because of my position on immigration. And in September last year, we launched. So that was the activating policy / human element of why I'm running for this seat. And
where is the Pennsylvania 10th? If you could tell folks, especially for We have folks literally watching and listening all over the globe. Where is the
Yeah.
Pennsylvania 10th?
So the Pennsylvania 10th is in South Central Pennsylvania. So if you think of, I'll tell you the counties first: Dauphin County, Cumberland County, and the north half of York County. But most people will know it because Harrisburg is the capital city, and it is in Dauphin County in the 10th district. Some people also, especially international or around the country, know Hershey because of the Hershey chocolate bar, or maybe they've been to Hershey Park, and that is also in Dauphin County. Then you have Carlisle. Some people know Carlisle or Mechanicsburg if you've been through the area. And then York City would also be in it. So those are some landmarks, if you will, of the region. It's a very diverse region. We have a lot of rural space, a lot of suburban space, and then obviously urban centers in York and in Harrisburg.
Who is the current holder of the seat?
Scott Perry.
And he was most famously involved in what?
He's been involved in a lot of things. January 6th is what most people go to, where you get your phone seized by the FBI. It's usually not a good look, and seemed to have some, there was something going on there. I don't know
why
what.
has this seat been so hard to flip?
I think it's been hard to flip because it's just taken time for this region to turn blue. The seat that I ran for in, 23, I was told I was wasting my time, that it wasn't winnable, that Dauphin County would never elect 2 Democrats. And on the night of the election, when all the votes were cast, we were ahead by 42 votes, and we won by 184. And, in a county of almost 300,000 people. So I believed it was possible. And since then, we've had some major wins. We won 2 judges just this last election, and Dauphin County has really flipped fully blue. And, we've seen similar trends happening in Cumberland and in York. And so the numbers haven't lined up. The years haven't been right, and I don't think the candidates have been somebody like me. So, yeah.
Do you intend, a question from the chat, do you intend to continue to visit ICE facilities should you be elected?
So I've never visited an ICE facility because as a county commissioner, I don't have the capacity or jurisdiction to do that. Were I a member of Congress and somebody who's worked for prison reform and visited a number of county jails in that capacity and state jails, just to learn best practices and do my best to stay aware of what other facilities are doing that we might be able to replicate here in Dauphin County. All that knowledge that I've learned there, I would want to take in, certainly popping into ICE facilities and making sure that they are providing adequate care. As many of them are for-profit prison models. They cut corners and people are hurt because of that. And so definitely would use that if I had that authority. Now, they are denying members of Congress the opportunity to visit those spaces, which is illegal. But I would do whatever I could to fight those types of restrictions, including, filing lawsuits if needed. On behalf of my role as a, member of Congress. So yes, that I see that as a big part of my role.
How much of this immigration crackdown do you attribute to just strictly profit?
Yeah, I think profit's certainly part of it. I think racism and fear is another part of it. This administration loves to create an enemy for people to rally around and often misrepresent an entire group of people in an effort to rally a base. And they've done that around immigration, and it's really unfortunate. But the profit motive is a big part of it. Look, Geo Group, I'll name groups. Geo Group is... they run Oceanon Valley right up the road. They were one of the primary contributors of Donald Trump to get him elected. And, in getting him elected, now they're getting all kinds of contracts. All this detention facilities or concentration camps, whatever you want to call them, that are being built right now or being, proposed. They're all coming from for-profit prison groups that many of them gave campaign contributions, and many of them, their stocks have seen a significant boost since the election of Donald Trump, even before he took office, just because of the anticipation of how their businesses would see an improvement because of that. And so certainly profit is a big part of it.
I'm jumping around, but because there's questions
That's fine.
popping up in the comment section that I don't want to let go. Are you taking any money from AIPAC?
No, I haven't taken any corporate PAC money. I haven't taken any PAC money at all. All of our money's grassroots. We've received almost 5,000 donors now. And our average gift is like $23, I think.
Has it been a source of either, I don't know, disappointment or contention or whatever word is the best word here, as you have taken on this race, to realize just how desperately important, and I don't think that's an overstatement, money is to this entire process?
I mean, money's as important as you make it. And I think what's been disappointing is seeing how important money is to certain people. When I ran for commissioner, I raised $10,000. The three other people I was running against each raised over $250,000, and I won a seat. There are ways to get the vote out. There are ways to get your message out without the traditional campaign methods, and ways to really use grassroots leveraging of people power. And even your podcast is a representative of that too, right? Getting the word out in different ways. There's ways to inspire people to give you small dollar donations and then work on a shoestring budget. It's challenging to sit down with like-minded organizations, which I regularly do, and hear them tell me how much they love me and they love what I stand for and they love my ability to communicate well, and they love what's happening on the ground in my district and the way they're hearing from people about how excited they are to vote for me. But they got to see more cash on hand, and then they'll endorse me. Those types of things are challenging, but it's part of the game. I get it. And we're doing everything we can to raise money, but to raise it the right way. That's what's really important to me. I don't want strings attached to me when I get into office.
There is you can't get the job without the experience, but you can't get the experience without the job kind of thing when it comes to money, isn't it? Which I find frustrating, and I'm not running for anything.
Well, I'm the only one with experience in this race on the Democratic ticket. I have more than 2 years experience as a county commissioner. If the experience is fundraising, then sure, I'm limited in my experience. But we saw over, I think, $20-30 million flooded into this race last time. I'm not going to have to fundraise hard if I get through the primary. Like, money's going to flow because Scott Perry is one of the weakest congressmen, and people want this seat to flip. It's not hard to make an argument to your typical Democratic max donor that we only have so many seats we can pick up this year, and this is the most vulnerable one. Consider making a max donation. It is hard to make that argument when the DCCC gives your opponent the entire list of those types of donors, but doesn't give it to you. That's how the national party endorsing in primaries, just like they did with Bernie in 2015-16, when we had somebody gaining steam, had won 2 states in a row, and the Democrats nationally got really worried because they didn't want him to be president, and they got in and influenced. And we see this influence peddling regularly, and they're doing it in this race as well. And they'll be the first ones to hand me that list so that I can raise money like anybody else if I get through this primary. So I know people don't think I can raise money. I can raise money. I refuse to take money from AIPAC. My, primary opponent doesn't. I refuse to take money from corporate PACs. My primary opponent doesn't. And I feel strongly that we need massive campaign finance reform for local elections all the way up to federal elections. It's ruining the type of leader. It's ruining our country because the type of leaders we get have so much strings attached to them and expectations on them. And so we got to overturn Citizen United. We got to make a constitutional amendment for that. But in the meantime, we got to think creatively about how to fix it.
What do you think about the Pennsylvania budget and the idea of increasing taxes on the top 1% and corporate fat cats to finance the programs we need to make up for the destruction of resources by Musk, Doge, and Trump? Nothing lighthearted about that question.
No. Look, I would say to Michael, I would say, for a long time, very wealthy people have not paid their fair share in this country. And if you look back in history, 60s and 70s, we had such a higher tax rate on the wealthy. And
91% and 74% when Reagan came to office.
Yeah, it basically carved out the middle class. That allowed for the middle class to expand. And so these very wealthy people who profit off of a system that is capitalism, and good for them for doing that, they then craft the rules that allow them to not pay back into the system that they benefit from. And so I have not reviewed that proposal. And I'm not running for Pennsylvania House. I'm running for the federal House for the United States. But I would support it in theory because I think very often very wealthy people are finding ways to skirt tax. I mean, if you just look at Social Security alone, if you make over, I think, $184,000, you pay this. Like if you make $5 million a year, if you make $184,000 a year, you pay the same amount in taxes because it's capped at 184. I think it's $184,000 if my memory serves me correct. And so we cap that, and then very wealthy people basically are paying like 0.2% if they're a billionaire. So they're not paying back into the systems that are struggling to stay solvent.
Let me try to ask you in a different way. It seems to me, and I've said on this program probably way too often for those who are familiar with it, federal government does not have a spending problem. It has a spending priority problem, but it does not have a spending problem. It has a revenue problem because the revenues are not coming in at the rates that they should be, and they're not coming from the places that they should be. Do you agree, disagree? Thoughts?
I wouldn't say we don't have a spending problem. I would say, yes, we also have a revenue problem, but we have a spending problem. I think, the great philosopher Tupac said, we got money for war, but can't feed the poor.
That's priorities.
Cutting people's, but that's a spending problem. We're spending money on the wrong priorities. So,
right.
We're starting a war in Iran while we're taking away people's access to affordable health care, while we're cutting SNAP benefits. That's a spending problem, if you ask me, while we're also asking for, we've basically given ICE a blank check. They're funded bigger than the FBI or CIA now, while we're also asking for $200 billion more for this war that we were apparently going to be able to get out of in a couple weeks, that I'm confident this administration has no clue how to get out of now. I think it's fair though to say what your theory is still accurate, and that, the revenue problem is that very wealthy people have had a lot of influence on politicians that have rewritten the rules in a way to advantage themselves. And it has taken revenue away because they've written themselves out of the taxes that they should be paying. And that began with offshoring. And it's now got to a point to where there's so many write-offs, and they have so many, they have the resources to hire the lawyers to ensure that they get every single benefit, to where it's odd that at the end of the year right now, when you're doing taxes and you owe taxes, that if you owe $1 in taxes, you're paying more than Jeff Bezos. That's insane. I mean, it's just so, I mean, with that, that's the real problem, is that we have a corrupt system of campaign finance that allows for them to buy politicians and ultimately have undue influence on the legislation that gets passed.
If you win against Scott Perry, will you support any efforts to ensure Pennsylvania women have access to abortion care?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
these are coming right from the chat. I'm not bright enough to think of most of these comments. So
no, that's a good question. I fully support a woman's right to choose. I believe, my daughter is 16 years old. She had more rights when she was a toddler than she does now. The Supreme Court ruling really is problematic when you think about a country's history to be going backwards on rights that people have. So I would support a woman's right to choose. But I think furthermore, I would support, equitable access to healthcare, certainly around maternal healthcare in general, including paid time off for new mothers, for new families. In this country, we don't do a good job of that. I would also support, early childhood, pre-K programs, and also affordable daycare. So I see it as, connected certainly to the care that the question is asking about, but then even furthermore, the resources that our communities create that allow new parents to be successful and have the resources in their community to continue to work and continue to thrive as young families.
What reforms do you think should be made to make our elections less bought and paid for by corporations? You mentioned Citizens United. What else, if anything else, or is that really the key to where it starts?
So I've talked about this on the campaign trail. We have to really think dual-minded here. So, and I'll even say, like, we have to think in 3 lanes. Long term, we have to get a constitutional amendment to undo Citizens United. Like we have to get there, but that's going to take time, and it's going to take really a lot of pressure from the public on politicians on both sides of the aisle. And like I said, it's going to take time. I think the next thing we need to do is we need to start really gravitating to candidates. And I'm saying this to my, Republican neighbors, my independent neighbors, my libertarian neighbors, my Green Party neighbors, and my Democratic Party neighbors. People of every single persuasion need to start uplifting candidates who are saying they're refusing to take money from special interests. Candidates who are saying they're refusing to take corporate PAC money. We need to follow groups like the Integrity Index that are doing their best to take FEC reports, which are very complicated, and make them very easy for people to understand, and determine which candidates we're going to support, very much based on their positions, but also based on the finances and where they're coming from. We need to be a lot more aware of who's funding our elected officials. And so, and that should influence our vote. For a long time, it hasn't. And then I think the third bucket, and really important here, we got to think creatively about how we can curb the influence of Citizens United right now. Citizens United says you can raise as much money as you want, but it does not say you can spend as much money as you want. And it puts no limitations on spending or bills that could limit spending. And so as a congressman, I would want to introduce legislation that says we as congressional candidates are only allowed to spend 2 times the median household income in our districts in the primary, and 2 times the median household income in our districts in the general. And that would level the playing field for both candidates. They still have to raise money, but if they raise $20 million in a place like Pennsylvania's 10th district, you're only going to be able to spend $150,000 in the primary and $150,000 in the general. And so it ultimately would curb the influence of that money. You would still have outside spend, but it could be something that would allow for a creative idea like that, whether it's even 4 times the amount, still something that we can, hopefully creatively come to solutions. So, thanks, Cage. Cage is a great student. He's at Penn State Harrisburg. So we've got a lot of colleges here in the 10th, and I've met Cage out on the campaign trail, and he's great over there. And I appreciate the question. Thanks for
one of the
commenting.
things I've talked about on the program, and it's a concept that kind of used to be in this country but isn't any longer. I think with the onset of cable news, we're constantly in this campaign mode. The night of the presidential election, usually, when we realize it's decided, a couple minutes later, we start talking about who's going to run in 4 years. And we're constantly in this campaign mode. One of the things that I've talked about on the program is that we not only need campaign finance reform, we need campaign reform. Parliamentary elections in the United Kingdom are run for 6 weeks. You can't start before a certain date, and you can only run up to a certain date, and all ads come down as you get close to the election. The ads actually have to come down and stop running. You can only campaign for this certain amount of time. What about the idea of campaign reform? Not just campaign finance reform, but campaign reform by itself. And that might include the way that we vote, as far as ranked choice voting, or making it easier for more parties to exist. I don't know that that's the answer to anything. I'm just curious as to your thoughts about changing the fundamental campaign structure in this country, not just how it's funded, but how we actually functionally operate these elections and campaigns.
I'm a big fan of ranked choice voting. I think it actually gives the ability for candidates to, there's a lot more representation on a ballot if you have ranked choice voting. The other thing I would say, is mail-in ballots have been very helpful to expand access to voting. But if you're just looking at voting as like a function of democracy in the 21st century, there's a lot of countries that have voting open for a whole week, or even a whole 2 or 3 days. And, in our country, it's a weekend, a time in which people typically have more time on their schedule to get into. So much of what we do is antiquated. I don't think it's corrupt, and I don't think it's rigged like a lot of people think. I do think it could be better. And so that's certainly something that I support. What the first part of your question, though, was something different before you got into the election piece. It was about, I'm blanking right now. It was about
elections in the UK are 6 weeks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 6 weeks. Yeah. So yeah, I wanted to say this.
You wouldn't need as much money to run if you could only run for 6 weeks.
Precisely. And if you couldn't do a bunch of campaigning, if you only had a start time and an end time that was defined, yes. So the other thing I was going to say was, look, if you're going to run for Senate, you're going to be a senator. Once you get elected, you get 6 years as a senator. You can take the first 2 years and do basically like very little, if any, campaigning. Like you're a senator, you're a sitting senator. There's only 2 of you in a state. Like you're going to get a lot of name ID out of that. You're going to get a lot of, and then you can start ramping up your campaign maybe a little bit in that 3rd year, that 4th year, and slowly start getting ready for the last year where you're really out on the campaign trail hard. Here's what happens in Congress, where the terms are only 2 years. The moment you get elected is the moment you start running again for Congress. It's just a reality. And it's a reality specifically around finances. And so where the people that financed you, that got you there, especially, very large PACs, corporate PACs and other PACs that get you there, you need to do your best to impress them if you want to maintain their contributions. And so we often see individuals in Congress who are not making principled decisions. They're making decisions based on how their donors are going to respond because they're never not running for Congress. And, that's the challenge of a 2-year term. And what you mentioned about like a 6-week window, or even if you expanded that to a 3-month window where you were allowed to run for office and raise money and do all that, Yeah, that would be a pretty amazing system if something like that could get put in place, because it would also allow our legislators to be far more in service of us than in service of donors.
We've reached the top of the hour, entering our second hour here on the Kennedy Effect Live with you for the 29th of March, 2026. We are live right now on the Facebook pages of Our Revolution Pennsylvania, Hot101.net, Ghost Claw Productions, and Ghost Claw Entertainment. We are live right now on our home group Facebook page for all things that surround our program, The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. I see a lot of new names and faces in the chat. I hope that this will be, let me extend an invitation to you and make it very, very clear to you that you are always welcome here, even when Justin is not here. So, because I know a lot of the new names are because you want to know what he has to say and not what I have to say. But you are always welcome here on our program every Sunday from 6 p.m. We hope that this is not the only time that we see you, that you come back and become regulars here, regular viewers and listeners here on our program. Please visit our Facebook group, The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. It's literally, that's the name of it. Very, very simple. The Kennedy Effect on Facebook, and become members of our group. When we're not on the air, the stories that we follow, the issues that we care about are on our Facebook group. The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. And not only politics either. I actually tend to post a pretty good number of articles about astronomy, because I happen to find it fascinating, and I think it's neat when you can look up into the sky and recognize what planets are above you, and that we're just one little rock moving around in a big, big, big cosmic ocean. And we do a lot of animal advocacy there as well, hoping that you will always, always adopt and never, never shop. So our Facebook group is always, always there. We hope that you'll check it out, The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. We are live right now on 2 YouTube channels, GCPR.live, the Ghost Claw Productions Radio YouTube channel, as well as The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. If you ever miss any GCPR programming, our YouTube channel, the GCPR YouTube channel, is the best place to go to catch up. If you miss any part of our program, we have our own YouTube channel, The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. The audio of the program blasts around the globe via hot101.net and gcpr.live. Hot101.net, our name is our web address. If you type in hot101.net, you go right to our website, find out everything you want to know about the station, the DJs, the programming there, and you can listen 100% for free. For free. 100% for free. The best price of all. If you want to pay anything, pay nothing. It's even better. Hot101.net. Our Apple, go to the Apple App Store for our Apple app for Apple devices, the Google Play Store for Android devices, and the TuneIn Radio app for all other types of devices. Go up to the search bar, type in hot101.net, and you are listening right away. And again, completely 100% for free. You can also tell Alexa to play hot101.net. GCPR.live is the radio station that I am humble enough to be co-owner of, and we are blasting around the globe via GCPR as well. GCPR.live for Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live, Ghost Claw Productions Radio. GCPR.live. You can listen to us on our main website as well, GCPR.live. I said it 100 times. But then again, repetition burns it into your brain, sears it right into your brain, the repetition of it all. And you can listen to us there and you find out about the station, see our program schedule, learn about our hosts, learn about our shows, go to the merch store, all of that kind of thing you can do right at gcpr.live. We also have a fully functional Android app as well, with an Apple app on the way. Our guest is Justin Douglas, Democratic candidate for Congress for the United States House of Representatives from the 10th District of Pennsylvania, the center of the state, if you can kind of think about it that way, right around the center of the state, right in the capital region, for those of you who are not close to the program. Or not close to Pennsylvania is what I meant to say. I knew what I meant. Always listen to what I mean, folks. Never listen to what I say. Just listen to what I mean. And then it works out a lot better that way. What are your thoughts, concerns on the monopolization of industries and something less spoken of recent, media consolidation, i.e. Sinclair and Nexstar Media are now going to control, they're merging, and they're now going to control about 80. They're going to own stations in about 83% of the country. What is your thoughts on this media monopolization / consolidation?
Yeah, well, we have monopoly laws that we fail to enforce. What was it back in the day when I was a kid? It was like, wasn't it Bell or like the phone company? And they broke them up because they considered them a monopoly. I mean, we haven't broke up an industry considering it a monopoly in a long time, but we have a lot of monopolies. We have people, we have organizations like Amazon, which if you want to put your small business up there to sell stuff, they're going to have access to all your data, and then they're going to learn about how you're influencing your market, and they're going to try to take your market when they create an item similar to yours and pull your market, and then ultimately push you out of the market, because their goal is to have all markets. And so, I think we have to talk about how that has completely influenced the dwindling away of the middle class. People who have great ideas, who want to start small businesses, are often pushed out by monopolies in the business sector. In the media sector, we're seeing a very similar thing too. And we're also seeing undue influence by this administration and leaders within it for censoring. I think what we saw with Kimmel was really concerning. You have free speech to be on the airways and to speak, and to see them try to silence somebody who's critical of the president is a real concerning, especially when we talk about, drifting toward authoritarianism and fascism. But it is what authoritarian leaders do. They consolidate media into one place and in a way in which they can control it. It's why I think it's so important that we support independent media outlets right now. So many of our local news are being bought up by different, groups and podcasts and other, local independent journalism. It's really important that we're doing what we can to support those outlets, and ultimately forcing and pushing our elected officials to, realize the monopoly laws we have in place and that we need to enforce them, and then really fight for breaking apart, single ownership of large stakes of the media. I don't think anyone should own above 51% of the media in America. And I would actually probably say even less than that number, but certainly 51%.
Jen in the chat asked a very interesting question, and I think it relates probably to the idea of direct democracy, which is something that we really never had in this. And it might also reflect the idea of an over reliance on poll numbers. But she asks, so I will ask you, why can't we, the people, have more say in policy decisions? Why can't we vote or poll on policies and allow for discussion? Under this regime, which is exactly the word for it, regime, we feel so helpless. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I would just say first, Jen, I feel that helplessness too. It is really hard right now. Yesterday, I spoke at a No Kings rally in Harrisburg, and I also spoke at the No Kings rally in Hershey. And I told people, to remember three things as they left. To remember, courage, that we got to stand up right now. We got to speak out. We got to be bold. Self-censorship is not an option right now. So courage. I said commitment, commitment to our principles, commitment to one another, commitment to integrity, and institutions that rise to that occasion. And then I talked about the reality that we need to be compassionate. And so we need to lead with love. Like, we need to see joy as an act of resistance. And so I hear, before I address the question specifically, I hear, the pain of feeling helpless and feeling like we don't have anything. But I just want to say, every time you show courage, every time you show commitment, every time you show compassion and love of your neighbor, and you respond to this hate that this administration is, spewing with love, you are making a difference. And so know that right out the gate. Now, to the question of why can't we have polling? Why can't we do things? Interestingly enough, in Pennsylvania, I've 3 Mile Island is in Dauphin County, where I am a commissioner. It is also in Pennsylvania's 10th district. So I've had to learn a lot of history about 3 Mile Island. And following the accident out there, the meltdown, whatever you want to call it, the emergency, I'm not sure what the term is, but following that, there was like a ballot vote for like whether or not 3 Mile Island was something the community wanted. Now, it wasn't an actionable thing. It wasn't like if the majority of the community wants it, then we will have it. And if not the majority wants it, we won't have it. It was just a poll on a ballot to get an understanding of where Pennsylvanians in the region were at that time. Since then, Pennsylvania has passed law that you can't have a poll question like that on the ballot. And I found that interesting because I do think it would be very beneficial to have certain types of questions like that, non-actionable, just get an understanding of where voters are on a really big item. I think the item has to be, it has to be something that has significant influence on the region or significant risk. But, ultimately the elected officials removed that from an option to be on the ballot, probably because they felt the pressure of constituents, speaking out about things that that maybe they were in conflict with or that made it hard to do their job. I would also say you do get a say in policy because you get a say in the person you send to be your policymaker, to be your representative. And that's why voting is so important. And it's why so many people wait till the general to vote, but it's really important to vote in the primary. And it's really important to understand the types of policies the person, who's running is going to implement or at least champion. Even if they can't get it into law, they're going to be pushing for that and making an argument for that. We're always, unfortunately, going to have incidences like Senator Fetterman, where he speaks one way on the campaign trail and he gets into office and he does something else. We have plenty of those people. And when that happens, we have to be ruthless in holding them accountable at the ballot box. But that is your chance to have influence over policy. And that is why I am such an accessible candidate and why I try to show up everywhere I possibly can, because I want people to understand that I know what type of policy that I would champion, and I will stand by that if I'm successful in getting to Congress.
And Commissioner candidate Douglas, please speak to GEO Group's role with ICE, Dauphin County, and the prison industrial complex more broadly. I think you did touch on it before, but what else can you share about that?
More broadly. So so here's how it works. GEO Group is a for-profit prison model. Basically, they will come in, and if you own a property, they will come in and run your prison. So they'll hire correction officers, they'll hire, they'll have their own medical staff, or they'll get a different medical vendor to come in and do that. But they basically run the entire operations of your jail or your facility. They also do reentry programs, which is, unfortunately, I've voted against GEO Group's reentry program in Dauphin County, but we still use them in Dauphin County. I won't support any reentry group that has for-profit prison model or is adjacent to that. It's a pretty simple model. They give you the ability to outsource your jail to them, and you don't have to. So in Dauphin County, for example, we hire correction officers, we hire administrators, we hire maintenance and janitors, and everything for the prison. We do outsource our medical. We do outsource our food. So certain things are privatized in the jail, but it is not a private jail. Geo Group comes in and typically is the provider providing all of those things. And they're, not, I don't want to just pick on Geo Group. There's plenty of others that have had really bad outcomes, and accountability is typically something that's, non-existent in these spaces of for-profit prisons, or accountability comes much later after violations have taken place. And so I'm adamantly against it. And I also see, our justice system should be about restoration and not about profit.
Let me ask you one of the more open-ended questions of the evening. Tell me about your primary opponent.
I'm running against a primary opponent. Her name's Janelle Stelson. She ran last time for the seat. She was a Republican in 2023. I was running for office as a Democrat in 2023. I've been a Democrat my entire time in Pennsylvania. In Wisconsin, where I lived for many years, I was an independent, but that's because they had open primaries. I was an independent, kind of like Bernie style independent progressive. But I always voted on the Democratic side of the ticket. When we talk about Janelle, I think my challenge with that is, last time she ran, it was a very flooded primary field, and she got through and won, and then released a commercial on immigration that I thought was, it just was unbelievable when I watched it. I thought it was AI or something. I thought this is somebody trying to tank her campaign on some misinformation. She said, deport all the illegals, close the border, deport all the illegals. I think ran about as far right as you can go as a Democrat, and still lost because I don't think she inspired a whole lot of progressives to turn out for her. And apparently right afterwards, Hakeem Jeffries thought 2 weeks after a loss, I'll give you a call and tell you why you're going to win next time, because we're going to make sure we support you. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm 41 years old. This is the type of thing that pisses me off about Democrats, like the establishment, the Washington insiders. It's like you see someone run and they'll emphasize how close she got to beating him. But, Ricky Bobby taught me, if you ain't first, you're last. And she lost, and she should have won. But there was a lot of missed opportunities in that campaign, and standing on principle was one of them. And I don't have any reason to, disparage her, but I just, that was one thing that I can never look past. And she hasn't apologized for it, especially, the mass deportation that has existed over the last year. And I think she owes voters the ability to say that was a mistake. I'll further say, since launching my campaign, our very first town hall that we planned, so we planned our own town halls, but we also show up to community town halls where all candidates are invited. I've, planned a number of my own town halls. Our first one was on Penn State Harrisburg's campus, and we've attended a number. I think we're up to, we're over 30 town halls at this point. And more of those town halls are ones we have not planned, but we've shown up that other groups have planned, and they've invited all the candidates. I've yet to stand on a debate stage or a forum stage with my opponent because she refuses to debate me. She refuses to come to a forum. And I just think if you're going to run to represent people, you got to show up. You got to show up. You got to give an answer for your policies. You got to, we're running against each other right now. There's nothing wrong with that. We can be on the same team and fight about, ideas that are going to best serve Pennsylvania's 10th. And at the end of the day, shake hands. That's not something she's interested in. And for that, I would say all the ways that she calls Perry a coward, for not having public town halls since 2019. the same logic applies to her. It's not me applying the same logic. It's the logic she applies to Perry and calls him regularly a coward for not showing up. Well, you have a primary opponent right now, and you should show up.
I've said in the program a lot of different times that people will always vote for the real thing over the fake thing, even if they don't like the real thing. That when Democrats run as Republicans, they're automatically at a disadvantage because they're not running as a real thing. Does that make any sense to you? Or the people will vote for the real thing, even if they don't like it, at least they'll vote for the real thing?
Certainly. Look, I think this is going to be funny for some people. Trump says he is the most transparent president we've ever had in American history. And I say, I agree. Not that he's not hiding things, but he's unfiltered. Like, he says things that no other president would ever say. If it's in his brain, he speaks it. I don't think it's good for our country. I don't think his brain is what I want in the White House. But I would say what was attractive about him was that people saw him as a fighter. They saw him as somebody who was, I mean, when he first ran the first time, I had so many conversations with friends in Indiana where I grew up who would say things like, the guy's a moron. I think he's the worst, but Democrats have screwed us. Republicans have screwed us. And even if it's nothing, I'm throwing a Molotov cocktail into it to see if it just, at least burns the people who have burned me. He was, in a certain sense, authentic. Like, even though he's very fake and manipulatable, and he's a coward and not, all the things, the plain speaking of who he was something that was attractive. And I think Democrats can learn a thing or two from that. Not to have the morals of that man or to have the integrity of that man, but to say candidates don't want a well-polished candidate, voters don't want a well-polished candidate who ultimately tries to wiggle their way out of hard questions. They would rather have a candidate who answers the question wrong, at least in what their preference is, and says it with a level of confidence, authenticity, narrative, and storytelling around that, and lived experience. And that's who we need to be sending to Congress, in my opinion. We need strong, bold leaders right now. People want someone who says it with their chest and is unafraid. And I do think that's the only way we fight fascism.
I'm also glad to hear that you're not afraid to use the word fascism. There is it's something else we've been saying here in the program for an awful long time. Not to be afraid to use the F word. There's another F word out there, and the F word is.
I like to use them both. I like to use them both occasionally, even as a pastor.
So when you got into the race, I'm sure that there were a top 3, top 5 issues that were important to you. I don't know if we've touched on them in a very feverish questions session here in the comments, but what are if there's an issue maybe that we haven't touched on, or what were the top issues that drove you into this campaign, or that you brought with you into this campaign? Maybe that's a better way to say it, that you brought with you into this campaign. Is it, well, you tell me.
So I mean, it's pretty simple. We've already talked about immigration reform and ICE reform. I'm fully abolish ICE, and we can talk more about that if someone has a question about it, but that's certainly one we've already kind of exhaustively talked about to some extent. Corruption, things like banning members of Congress from trading stocks on, information that they have in their families. It's pretty obvious, and it's also supported universally on both sides. It should already be legislation. Corruption in politics, also in the sense of campaign finance, which we've spent a lot of time talking about, but we haven't spent a lot of time talking about foreign influence specifically, like Qatar giving the president a jet, and Saudi's influence, and UAE buying crypto coin, and Obviously APAC, which, I think there was a question about that earlier. And so foreign influence is certainly something that's a priority, and we can talk more if someone has a question about that. But I would say probably one of the biggest buckets of priorities is Medicare for all, and a universal system that ultimately gets the profit motive out of healthcare. And, the leading cause of bankruptcy for Americans is, medical debt. And so if we don't do something to address that reality, that's bold, that's uncompromising, that reforms the entire industry, and pulls out that profit motive and breaks apart. We talked about, the monopolies earlier in healthcare. There's so many monopolies. You have, health, you have insurance companies that are buying hospitals that are, able to double dip. And then they have PBMs that are, middlemen that, are able to make a bunch of money in the middle. And they get to kind of play with each of those dials independently. But also as a consumer, steer you to their, other entities that are, furthering their profit motive. I think, we as a government have an obligation to provide quality healthcare, and to do so as a human right, and not a human right that should be subject to capitalistic motives.
Me, a issue that maybe isn't on the front burner for most people, but it's important to you. Mine always happens to be, I would change the way that animals are classified in this Commonwealth if I could do that they would not be property anymore, that they would be something tantamount to children, because they obviously can't speak for themselves, but they're living souls, and they deserve a bit more than just being property. Most of the abuse that can be related to animals can be traced to the fact that they are property and not sentient, or at least not in the eyes of the law sentient. That just happens to be for me personally. What's an issue that maybe isn't one that you maybe hear about an awful lot, but yet is still important to you, that you would bring to the office?
That's the first time I've received that question, doing 30 plus town halls. I feel like I've heard them all, but I haven't heard one that's like, what's your random policy thing that you would want to see that maybe isn't like part of your page and policies, but is more just like something that you want as a person. Okay, I got it. My daughter came to me. This was 4 years ago, I think she was 12 or 13. I think she was 13. She came to me and she said, "Dad, I got an invitation to go to DC." And I'm like, "You got an invitation to go to DC? From who?" "From Senator Casey's office." And I'm like, "What? Like, is this a school thing?" She's like, "No, I emailed him. I wanted to talk to him about teen voting rights." And I was like, "What?" Completely did not tell us parents that she was doing this. Had this, had studied about teen voting rights, and wanted to talk to the senator about it. I think, I don't know if I'm getting my years accurate, just because everything kind of is a blur after COVID. But I know at that time, I believe Senator Casey was getting treatment for cancer, or at least I think at that point had been sick. We went and met with Senator Casey's staff, 3 members of his staff, and she gave a presentation for 30 minutes about teen voting rights. And then we toured the Capitol. She got to meet Cori Bush, got to see AOC deliver on the floor of Congress. It was a pretty cool experience for her. But what she actually presented to Senator Casey's staff was very unique and interesting. And there are certain states that are allowing 16-year-olds to vote in municipal elections for things like mayor and city council. And it's giving them the opportunity to register to vote before they're 18 and get their information kind of in the portal and begin to learn about, governance, and begin to learn about their role in their community and their role in the process of electing their leaders. I think it would be fabulous to nationwide launch a kind of, movement to give young people who are in high school the opportunity to vote, the opportunity to learn about the local elections that are happening in their community as they prepare to participate in the statewide and federal elections. And it can be something that schools have a big part in, just the civic, engagement as almost a test case, as a practice case. And I think it would actually radically transform your local leaders. They would actually have to give a damn about high schoolers and the impacts that their legislation make on high schoolers. And so I think that would be something that I'm not actively advocating for, but it would be a cool cherry on top if we could get something like that across the United States.
See, I knew there was one. Everybody has one that isn't like right up front. It's probably not one that you hear about a lot, but that's a good one for me. Entering, we're at the bottom of the hour, entering our final half hour of the program. We'll take you to 8 o'clock. Take you to the top of the hour. Our guest is Justin Douglas, Democratic candidate for the United States House of Representatives from the 10th Congressional District here in Pennsylvania. You are watching and listening to The Kennedy Effect live for the 29th of March, 2026. Hot101.net, GCPR.live, as well as the YouTube channels of GCPR and The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. The Kennedy Effect on Facebook, as well as the pages of Our Revolution Pennsylvania. Hot101.net, Ghost Claw Productions Entertainment, and Ghost Claw Productions, period. If you missed any of the program, I continue to believe the best place to catch up with us is YouTube. Go search for the Ghost Claw Productions Radio YouTube channel or our own YouTube channel, The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. It's the best place to catch up with anything that you may have missed, or to watch the program in smaller bits throughout the week, as many people do. It's the best place to get to us. Final half hour of the program and our time with Justin. Question that came, let me scroll and see if I can find it. Come on, mouse, help me out. Don't die on me, mouse. I don't want another. Thoughts on Israel and Palestine? There's an easy question for you. There's a nice easy one.
Yeah. You can go so many directions with that without it being particularly pointed. I would say, first and foremost, I've been to Israel and Palestine. I was there for 2 weeks with Christian peacemaking teams when I was a pastor. And I lived with family in Palestine. I went just about everywhere in the West Bank, including Ramallah and Hebron. I was very exposed to the conflict and the realities, including, watching CCTV footage of, snipers shooting kids, seeing things that were just, pretty abhorrent. I visited a refugee camp while I was there. Look, I think we can look at this through the lens of war, through the lens of people, through the lens of human rights. I guess I'll start with Congress and say every dollar we spend overseas should be going to the furtherance of peace, not forever wars. As someone who grew up where many of my friends that are my age went to Iraq and went to Afghanistan and either lost their lives or came back with the impacts of war and the challenges of reintegrating into American culture after. We should be very cautious what wars we're choosing to enter into, and also the expense of those. When I look at this yeah, exactly. When I look at the conflict between Israel and Palestine, certainly Hamas is an organization that has not had the priority of the Palestinian people in mind, at least in the way in which they've operated. And obviously October 7th was horrendous and horrid and something that's completely unbelievable that it happened. At the same time, what I'm seeing in Gaza is something where, we see journalists that are being targeted, hospitals being targeted, schools being targeted, medical, providers specifically being targeted. You're refusing to allow aid into the region. You know, it's a humanitarian crisis, and you know, I think there's, you know, UN groups calling it genocide, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them, because it seems as if the desire is to drive out the Palestinian people from the land, and to basically remove them from that region. And I saw that when I was in the West Bank. I saw homes that had been demolished weeks before we got there, and met families that, you know, previously lived in those homes that were demolished. And then you see the reality of settlements popping up in those locations. And so, you know, I think America has a role to play in speaking truth to our ally. It does not do them any good to continue to seize land where there has been agreements made on who should be occupying that land, and it should not be Israel. And so, you know, our participation with them as an ally needs to also be that we have their, you know, security in mind, from not just how we're going to support them with military weapons, but also, like, how are we going to support you in making decisions that ultimately don't expose you further? Now, hopefully they would be for peace and be trying to make peace with their, you know, neighbors. But what I saw there when I was there was really disappointing. You know, and I can tell you, they certainly don't want those images getting out, because when I went to the airport and was leaving Israel, I was pulled aside. All my stuff was searched. I was asked to open and unlock my laptop so they could check my files. I had SD cards that were locked with passwords that they said they weren't going to let me leave until I unlocked. I sat there for, I think, 2 or 3 hours while they went through all the literature that I was given and seized most of it, including children's books. And I'm an American citizen, and I'm a white male. I'm about as privileged as they come. And I had to go through that when I was leaving the country. And the desire that they had to not allow what I had experienced, what I had witnessed, what I've, you know, taken photos and video of, to get out of the country. That was really eye-opening to me, because I think, you know, my ignorance was that there was a lot of parallels in Israel to America, that, you know, freedom of speech and freedom of press were a high value. And that just wasn't the case when I was there and when I left. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about my experience on that. There's probably 100 different follow-up questions to that, but I think we should be very cautious in, you know, supporting and sending all kinds of money to a region if the weapons that we're sending are being used in ways that are committing war crimes.
Can you talk about Congress's role, or what Congress might be able to do moving forward as it relates to Kash Patel and or Pam Bondi, who both seem to be really fumbling, if not deliberately, easy for me to say, engaged in cover-ups with things like the Epstein files?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem when you confirm people
Who are unqualified.
Who aren't qualified. Exactly. I mean, we saw this with Kristi Noem, and, you know, now because of our senator in the great state of Pennsylvania, we've got this new joker that tried to start a fight on the floor of Congress, who's going to be, you know, overseeing ICE and DHS. And so, look, I think the biggest thing we can do is send really good communicators and really smart, intelligent debaters and people who are able to hold a lot of information in their head or know how to speak in a way that connects with American people to Congress, because these hearings, you can tell who's on their A game and who's not. And when you bring someone like Pam Bondi before you in a hearing, she's like a crazy person in these hearings. And, you know, you can frame questions in a way that expose the truth, and you can push a narrative that helps the American people understand how dangerous this person is in this role. And so I do believe we need to be, you know, continuing to have oversight hearings where every one of these elected officials, including, the Department of Education secretary, who's trying to dismantle the Department of Ed, Health and Human Services, RFK Jr., and others continue to come before Congress, and they need to make that as big of a spectacle as possible, because what they're doing is critical to the makeup of who we are as Americans, especially in DOJ. And we need to continue to look at all kinds of legislation that we can pass that curb their influence, or even limit their spending, because Congress is the purse strings, and so defunding their departments if necessary, like you're seeing right now with the funding for DHS being limited. So that would be my take.
As a young student, climate change is going to be a massive issue for our future. What climate action legislation do you support, or to reverse or at least curtail the worst excesses of climate change?
Yeah, so first off, this war that's happening right now is really causing a lot of climate disasters. You're seeing them intentionally bomb oil infrastructure and energy infrastructure, and even creating pretty massive fires that is putting a lot of pollution into the air. I just read a stat the other day about, in 14 days of this war, as much pollution was produced over a certain amount of countries in an entire year. And so we tend to not think about the environmental consequences of our decisions in America, but we need to do better, a lot better. I would say Biden had it on the right track with the investment in solar, the investment in wind, and then, Trump rolled a lot of that stuff back. And we need to go back.
Well, they just paid a French company this week $1 billion to not do what it was contracted to do.
Precisely. So they were already in contract with all these individuals under the Biden administration to really roll out some renewable energy infrastructure and investment. And this administration basically said no. And again, why? Why would you say no to stuff that's already been paid for, stuff that's already been, the infrastructure is going to be good for Americans. It's going to diversify our energy, and, it's going to make us more energy independent. Well, why would you do it? Because the oil companies are companies that helped you get into office, and are companies that you're, intent on delivering for. And so we just, again, it goes back to money, it goes back to influence, goes back to who has their strings attached to you. But I think we need a large investment in solar, a large investment in wind, whether that's independent, meaning just like on your home, like making it easier for people to get tax credits for, investing in solar independently on their homes, or whether these are, large solar installations that can, help a neighborhood, or, and ultimately move away from fossil fuels. Also, as a county commissioner, I've had the privilege of being part of ag land preservation here locally in our conservation district. I think we need, a commitment to preserve lands. Certainly, our amazing parks across the country, our federal landmarks and others. But we need to ensure that as we grow as a country, as we continue to develop, that we're not doing so in a way that's removing important land, because nature is a big part of, I think, as we enter into this technological era that we're entering into, going to reconnect us to our humanity, and losing all of these spaces is going to be detrimental.
Why do you suppose so many people don't seem to get the irony of this argument, that even independents, Republicans who don't want to see us involved in the Middle East in the ways that we are, that we wouldn't have to be if we moved away from fossil fuels? Exactly the thing that they think is some kind of, that they think climate change is some kind of big hoax and some kind of big money-making endeavor. And actually, it is a money-making endeavor. It's also a union job developing endeavor. It's a trade skills developing endeavor. It's more than just the environment. It is the second New Deal, really. The way we used to refer to it as a Green New Deal. It's the second New Deal. But that said, why do you suppose so many people can't seem to make that connection?
For some, it's tribalism. My tribe said no to this idea, and so I'm just going to go with what my tribe said. For others, I think it's a sense that it's like a weak idea. Like, you know what I mean? Like I remember back growing up, I grew up in a Ford family, Ford F-150, and what do they say? It's Ford tough. And it's like this macho idea of driving a truck that takes gasoline or diesel. You drive some wimpy Prius, but I bet everybody would love to be driving that right now as we're paying what we're paying for gas. So, I mean, I think that was kind of the branding when I was growing up that kind of divided lines and divided sides, right? So I would say some of the psychology is around that. But I also think, though, like, there's just like not a great understanding of how we get gas, how oil gets around the world. Like, I'm confident that, well, I don't want to say confident. It would not surprise me if this president didn't know what the Strait of Hormuz was before he bombed Iran. Like, this is a critical, thoroughfare for where the world gets its oil. And it's going to greatly impact what we pay on a number of goods, because much of this oil goes to China, who we have all kinds of business relationships with. And we just don't understand how energy independence also has such a critical role with our national security. If a war does happen and the Strait of Hormuz does get closed, we still have energy. That is a net positive for all Americans, no matter what party you're in. And I just think we need to do a better job of messaging that. We need to do a better job of communicating that, many of these electric cars are really cool now. They go really fast. They're, basically spaceships. And so some of that rebrand's happened. But I think some of the reality of diversifying energy has been adopted as people have put solar panels on their own homes. We just need to continue to push that. But I think we were entering into something that would have been very valuable for America. Just down the road from where I'm at right here in Harrisburg is a community called Steelton. And in Steelton, they did a solar project there. They have all solar powered buses, and those buses can also, they're electric buses and they're powered by solar panels. They recharge overnight. They can actually power the school if the school ever were to experience a loss of power. It's an amazing program, that Solar for Schools that took place right down the road. And I think the more and more people would have experienced that expansion of that program that the Biden administration rolled out, the more and more we would have caught a vision for how we can become more energy independent.
Do you think most people understand the depths to which the federal government has been dismantled and destroyed?
No, I don't think they realize how, look, what Doge did, the best way to probably talk about it is like, you can light a match and spread some gasoline and light a house on fire pretty quickly. But to put it back together is going to take a long time. We lost a lot of institutional knowledge. I spoke at a conference where almost everyone at the conference was, or a good portion of the number of people at the conference were Doged. And these were some of the brightest people I've ever met. It was in the area of technology. They've gone to the private sector and are doing pretty well in that space. But the brain drain that our government is experiencing now, not only because the brain drain from who this man that's at the top is selected to be in his cabinet, but the brain drain from all the people who are, public service employees. It's going to be felt for generations. It's going to have massive impacts on our country. And it's going to take a very unique leader to be the next president to figure out where to put the energy, because there's going to be so many things that are going to need rebuilt. And some of that's going to create opportunity for us to rebuild things differently. And that's good. But we could have done that in a way that didn't have such chaos and, harm.
I think just what it would take to restore the Department of Education, for example.
Yep. These are professionals that work there. And, you hope they'll come back under different leadership, but many of them won't.
I mean, the Department of Education now basically does nothing other than collect student loans.
Yeah, I wish they would have dismantled that portion, as I'm currently still paying student loans.
Yeah, but they make money on that, so that can't go anywhere. Would you write off student loans?
Yes.
Are you in favor of that?
100%. Look, I'm 41. I don't own a house. I'm still paying on student loans. I was the first generation in my family to go to college, first in my family to go to college. Look, the reality is we've got to make secondary education after high school something that doesn't bankrupt people, and it does. And it might not have bankrupted your generation. If you're listening to this and you come from a different generation, you might say, well, I paid off my student loans, why can't you? Because when I get out of college, I don't make as much money. And unless you're a doctor, but even doctors go to school for so many years, they incur so much debt. I just think we need certain professions that we fully fund, like teachers, like nurses, like doctors, certain other professions. The cost needs to be accessible.
Where do unions and apprenticeships fall into this?
Yeah, I mean, I think unions and apprenticeships we need to continue to invest in. Here in Dauphin County, we have a lot of amazing unions and a lot of amazing apprenticeship opportunities. We have, like our elevators union. Like, you can get in there and you can be making six figures before I would have even graduated high school, or would have even graduated college my first go around, right? My bachelor's degree. We have something here called Dauphin County Technical School. My son actually went there for a while his freshman year. And he spent time in that program. That's a program that's a feeder school for all of the public high schools. And basically they have all these different disciplines, and you leave with, something similar to an associate's degree. So you leave high school with something similar to associate's degree. If you're in the beautician lane, you're basically leaving with your license from beauty school. And so students are really invested in there, and they're given a track for our Dauphin County takes, individuals from there as interns in our IT. And then we often hire those individuals when they graduate Dauphin County Technical School. So those kind of programs, I think, should be happening all over the country. I think what we have here in Dauphin County is a good model, but the hard part about what we have in Dauphin County is you got to apply to go there, and it is a competitive process. And, I think those are the types of things that anyone who wants to get involved in that in high school should have that kind of an opportunity. So I'd like to see us invest more.
Nearly 38% of the private sector workforce was unionized when Ronald Reagan came to office. It is now about 6%. Where do unions fit into the economic revival of this country and the rebuilding of the middle class?
Square in the center. They are a pillar, as far as I'm concerned, of workers' rights. So many have tried to bust unions up, remove rights. What I know is that if you're a member of a union, you have the wage you have because people have fought for it. You have the healthcare you have because people have fought for it. You have the
Weekends.
right to, weekends. You have the right to appeal grievance. When you get written up, you have the right to appeal it. All these things that exist that are protections for workers and that curb corporate power. And so it puts a check and balance on simply profit motive interest, and it puts the interest of the collective, as a priority. And so I think unions, that market share of unions from Reagan to now is telling. It should be going the other direction.
It's been one of our great failures as Democrats is that we haven't fully repealed Reaganism. We haven't overturned trickle-down economics in the way that we understand it. We haven't restored tax rates to the pre-Reagan era. Even when President Carter was in office, it was 74% was the top marginal tax rate. We haven't gone back there. Bernie's talked about going to 50%, and people think he's absolutely crazy. Well, it used to be 74%. It used to be 91% during Eisenhower. It was 91%. John F. Kennedy said one of his great mistakes early on in his administration was lowering the top marginal tax rate. It seems to me that we don't rebalance the scales until that gets done.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think the hard part about being very wealthy is that you might have a mountain of wealth, but you're always looking for another mountain. And
it's a psychopathy.
Yep.
It is a hoarding psychopathy. When you're worth $500 billion and you don't think it's enough, something's wrong. Something's wrong. We got 4 minutes left in the program. I wanted to just turn the floor over to you. How do people find you, follow you, support you? Is there any questions or answers that you didn't think you got to fully suss out, or anything that you wanted to mention that we didn't get to? Anything like that? I just want to completely turn the floor over to you.
Thank you. So look, my name is Justin Douglas. I'm running for Congress, but I'm currently a Dauphin County Commissioner. I was elected to Dauphin County Commissioner in 2023. Since then, we've expanded access to voting here in Dauphin County. We used to have 2 ballot drop boxes across our whole county. Now we have 7. We used to not have ballot curing, but now we do. So if you make a mistake on your ballot, it can be cured. I fought for prison reform, including bringing in a new medical provider to our prison, which I'm very proud of. And I fought for a minimum wage for our county workers to $16 an hour. And ultimately, as a county commissioner, I've delivered on many of the things that I ran on. And as we see the state of America right now, which I believe America is in crisis, we need to send bold leaders who will fight. I fought for transparency and accountability in county government. I've exposed corruption as a county commissioner. And there's not much exposing needed in Washington. It's right out in the open. But we need to fight against it. We need to call it out, and we need to ultimately hold it accountable. And I plan on doing that as your next congressman in Pennsylvania's 10th district. The day you would vote for me, if you happen to be in PA 10, is May 19th. I am on the Democratic side of the ticket, and I would love your vote. If you are not in the district and want to support, you can go to justindouglas.us and learn more about how you can support. We have a merch store. You can buy a piece of merch. We have, an online portal if you want to give a donation. If you want to volunteer, maybe you want to phone bank from afar, or you want to drive into the district for the weekend and knock some doors, we'd love to have you. You can sign up at justindouglas.us for that. I'm very accessible online. We have a very active Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. So most of those handles are Justin Douglas, the number 4, and US. So Justin Douglas for us. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been amazing to take this kind of long form opportunity to really discuss a broad range of things. I like this format because I think this format gives the space for follow-up questions, for It's not like you got 60 seconds to answer this really complex thing. You get to kind of tease it out. Thank you for inviting me into this space, and thank you for the work you do to spotlight and highlight candidates and all different types of people. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you being here, of course, and for taking, more than 2 hours to be here and sit with us and talk with us and expand on a lot of these issues. I do have a piece of bad news for you, and that is that you are part of the family now. So we will. So you are always welcome.
I'd love to come back.
The door is always open to you. Let this not be the only time that you come to visit us. Come and visit us again, and let us know how you're doing. Let us know how the campaign is doing, and even after the campaign, regardless of what those results might be, you are welcome here. You obviously have studied, the issues and the campaign, and you know what needs to be done. So you are welcome to come back here and share your thoughts with us at any time.
Thank you, Jeff. You got my cell, so reach out anytime you think it might be a good weekend. And if I'm available, I'll make it happen.
You got it, my friend. That's it for us. That's Justin Douglas. A much better way to end the program than me shouting at you. We are done for this evening. We're very thrilled that Justin could be with us. It's nice to have a guest back again. We will return to you next week at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. George and I will be back with you then. For everyone at hot101.net. Come on, my mouse is not working again. By the way, coolest mouse in history right there.
But it's not the Mark 42. You're going to have to get up to 42 mice in order for it to actually work.
I'm going to have to break 40 more.
That's
mice.
Amazing.
I know.
The
It's
Iron
the
Man
coolest
mouse.
thing. It is the geekiest thing, but it's the
That's
coolest
awesome.
thing.
I
And
love
it's
it.
working now because I was trying to move my toggle around. For everyone at hot101.net, DJ Lex, DJ Earl, and the entire hot101.net family, the music returns to you right now. We return to you 1 week from tonight here on hot101.net from 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We will see you then. Right now, the music returns. For everybody at GCPR, for Thomas and Gilbert and Gambit and the entire GCPR family, thank you so much for allowing us to be part of your broadcast day. We appreciate it so very much, and we will return to you again next Sunday from 6 p.m. Now, following us, you got about a half hour or so to walk the dog, get a snack, get some milk and cookies, check in on the tournament, whatever it is that you want to do. The Villains View pre-show begins around 8:30, 8:45. Show goes live and full throttle from 9 p.m. Conversations with T. Nathan from 11, and Thomas kicks off your broadcast work week tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. with the sound of coffee. GCPR, have a great week and a great night, and we will see you again next Sunday. For everyone on our streaming channels, thanks so much for being with us. Remember, the best way to catch up on the program, in my opinion, is the YouTube channel. I almost gave the wrong one. George is smiling because I almost gave the wrong one. The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. The Kennedy Effect on YouTube. And please come visit our Facebook group and become a member. To all of the new faces and names that we saw here in the show tonight, come to our Facebook group, The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. Become a member and stay with us all the time. You'll catch up on the show. You'll know what's going on with the program. Follow stories that we're following. Follow guests that have been on the program. Everything like that at our Facebook group, The Kennedy Effect on Facebook. So for George and Lynn and Kristen and Daisy the dog and April Riddick, I am Jeff Kennedy. Thanks so much for being part of the program. We've done about all the damage we can do for 1 week. We will return to you next week from 6 p.m. to do it all over again. Thanks so very much. Have a great, great, great week. And remember, Villains View from 8:30, full throttle at 9, T. Nathan from 11, Thomas tomorrow morning from 8. Thanks so very, very much. We appreciate you. You're the best. We couldn't do it without you. You are always welcome here. GCPR, where every voice matters. We'll see you next week. Take care.